What's going on, you guys? This is Jonathan here. Happy New Year. This is my first upload of 2018, so thank you very much for watching. I want to apologize that I haven't uploaded in such a while because, like I said in my previous videos, I was in the process of looking for a job, and I think I finally have something. So with that, I do want to say that the regular videos should be back on the channel shortly. Like I said, I'm currently in the process of working with people to get cars that I can review for you guys, but today we are working on my car because I see that there is a coolant leak, and I looked underneath the car and I see that it's coming from around the crankshaft pulley. So I looked around online, tried to figure out what it is, and people are telling me that it's the water pump. So what I did was I went ahead to FCP Euro. I purchased a new genuine BMW water pump, 120 bucks, so really not that bad. But the more important thing about that is FCP has a lifetime warranty. So this is not a plug. I'm not, sponsored by FCP Euro by any chance. I just really want to advertise the brand in the sense that you get very good genuine parts, but more importantly, you get 100% lifetime warranty. So on everything, including oils, windshield washer fluid, wiper blades, car parts like thermostats, or anything really that they carry, nuts and bolts, you just send it back to them and they replace under warranty. So I got a new BMW water pump, and we're going to be installing that right now. So without further ado, let's get right to it. So the first thing we need to do is we need to get the car up on ramps because we need to drain the existing coolant. So let's jump right to it. Alright guys, so the first thing you want to do here as soon as you get the car up on ramps is you want to get rid of these 8mm bolts here. There's 3 of them in the front, and then you got 4 Phillips head screws, 2 here and 2 over here, and then you got 2 more back there. So what you want to do is take those out to get this belly pan off. Okay, so I'm not exactly sure how well you guys are going to see, but the crank pulley is right here. And I have coolant dripping all around this area. You can see on this sway bar here, there's some blue fluid. But basically, yeah, they're saying that when you have coolant right around this area and you don't really see it on the pulleys or the belt, then what that means is it's dripping down the side of the block, and the water pump often does that. So there we go. So now the next step is to drain the radiator out of all the coolant, and that's with this plug right here. We got our funnel here because we want to collect all the fluid. And then we take our 7/8 inch ratchet here, and we drain. And then we want to also open the expansion tank cap and the bleeder screw above in the engine base to, depressurize the system and get all the fluid out. So as you can see, not a whole lot is draining from the radiator, so we have a pretty decent sized leak. So now that the fluid's practically all out of the radiator, we don't really need to drain the system because I've done a coolant flush on this car before, so we can leave the existing coolant in the block. But now we're pretty much good to start working under the hood and disconnect everything that we need to in order to get to the water pump. So let's go ahead and do that. Alright, so the first step we want to do under here is to remove this air duct. So you just get a pair of pliers and you pull on these 4 pins that are located right here. You see they're just push rivets. So get them all out, and we set them aside. Next, what we do is we just take out this air dam, just like that. Okay, so what we want to do now is we want to take this electric fan out. So that is only held in with a T25 Torx. So you just take out these 2 connectors right here and take out the bolt. Put it aside. now the fan just simply slides right out. Okay, so our water pump is right behind this pulley here. So as you can see, we got 4 bolts that are holding it in. So we want to loosen these 4 bolts while the belt is still on, so that way the pulley doesn't move. After we do that, we take the belt off, and we have 4 more nuts that are holding the water pump to the block. So we take those nuts out, and then the water pump's ready to come out. So without further ado, let's jump right to it. So now what we're going to do is, since we broke these 4 bolts free, we're going to release the tension on the serpentine belt, get the belt off, take the pulley off, and then we can get the water pump out. And just like that, the belt comes off. Now we don't need to remove this belt, we're just going to leave it in here because we're about to slide it back on. So now we're going to take these 4 bolts out and get the pulley off the pump. They look just like that. So after you get those out, you can get the pulley off. This one is seized on there pretty well, so we're just going to hit it a couple times. And just like that, we got our pulley off. It's probably the original one. So as you can see here, we got our pulley off, and now we just have 4 nuts holding this on. So once we get those nuts out, we're going to take 2 bolts and thread them in here on each side, because that's going to help get the pump out. So without further ado, let's jump right to it. So we got 4 of these nuts we got to get off. Okay guys, so not sure how well you can see, but you take these 2 bolts here, which come right from the air filter housing. Take these 2 10mm bolts and you put them right here on both ends of the water pump. So if you can see, it jiggles a little bit, but you know, the gasket in there is keeping it tight. So what we want to do is, you want to take these 2 bolts and tighten them up slowly, evenly, and what that does is it pushes the water pump out, so it makes it easily accessible. Yeah, so I made a little bit of a mess, but as you can see, our pump is now out. There's the housing, here's the pump itself. So as you can see, it looks like the gasket is worn out pretty well. It's, you know, flat, and that must be the reason for our leak. But pump's out now, made a little bit of a mess, and now we're ready to put the new one in. So let's get that area cleaned up. Alright guys, so this is our old water pump right here. As you can see, it's pretty rusty. Gasket looks pretty worn. I have no idea what this gunk is, but honestly, it doesn't even look too bad. So this might not be the original one, but it does have a plastic impeller. Now, BMW used plastic impellers when they made these cars, and they switched to metal, and they quickly switched back to plastic, because what happened was the metal impeller would upset the bearing in this thing, and it would cause premature wear. So they quickly phased those out, and they switched back to plastic. So that might be what this is right here. The thing is, I went online, FCP Euro, and I bought a brand new water pump right here. Genuine BMW. When I took it out of the box, okay, here's our water pump, all nice and shiny, nice and cool. The interesting part about this is the impeller is made out of metal. So I don't know if you guys can hear it. Might be able to hear it there a bit. That's metal. And this one here is made out of plastic, so you might even be able to see the little plastic weld right there, whatever that is. But this is metal, and that's interesting because BMW switched to metal and they moved back to plastic, and it looks like they moved back to metal again. Now this might be an improved version, an improved generation of the metal water pump we saw before. So it's cool that the impeller is made out of metal, so hopefully that makes it a little more robust and it won't break over time. But Nonetheless, you know, if something does happen to it, then I don't really have to worry about it because it is covered by FCP's warranty. So with that, let's go ahead and get this in the car. As you can also see here in the box, we got a brand new pulley. It's also genuine BMW, but FCP, so we're covered on that front. And we got our new hardware, mounting hardware. So with that, let's get this bad boy back in the car. Okay, so what you want to do now is take a little bit of coolant and you want to lubricate this gasket right here, so it makes it easier to slide in. I'm just taking a little bit of coolant from the block where the pump goes in. Okay, now this pump only goes in one way, so you got to pay attention to your holes and get it lined up correctly. Now what you want to do is you want to take your new nuts and get the pump back in the housing evenly. So a little bit of torque on each 4 bolts equally will ensure that this thing gets on nice and evenly. Okay, so now that you got all 4 on, just make sure everything's all tight. Again, crisscross. Now we're going to take our brand new pulley and put it on the pump. Alright, so now we're going to put the belt back on so we can completely tighten the water pump pulley. Alright, so since everything under the hood is pretty much all back together, what we're going to do now is we're going to take our radiator drain bolt, and I'm going to wrap it in a couple layers of Teflon because to me, when I screw it on, it seems a little loose, you know, like you don't have to tighten it too much, and I'm a little paranoid by that, so I'm just going to put a little bit of Teflon on it to make sure it won't pop out or anything. And we should be good. Alright, so we just get this back under there nice and tight, and then we can fill our expansion tank. Alright guys, so now that we got everything under the hood all squared away, we got our water pump in, we got the pulley on, the belt is on, all the bolts are tight, we got our electric fan on, we put our air duct back on, but I didn't fasten it yet. So now what we're going to do, we're going to fill the expansion tank with coolant, 50-50 mixture of coolant and distilled water. So the proper way of doing this procedure is going inside the car and you put the key in position 2 in accessory mode and you turn your heat all the way up to the highest setting, 91 degrees, and you want to leave the fan speed on low because this opens up the valve inside the heater core, which will allow coolant to fully circulate through there. Because what we want to do now is we want to bleed the system, and in order to bleed the system correctly, you got to make sure that you get solid flow of coolant everywhere where it's important. So now that the heater core is all open, you want to make sure that, like I said, your heat's on high, speed's on low, and turn this dial here all the way to red hot. And afterwards, you're pretty much ready to start filling it with coolant and bleeding. So I'm about to show you how to do that. Having this jug here, 50-50 mix, and I got a funnel there. So what you do now is you take your coolant and you pour it in there, but before you start doing that, you want to take your bleeder cap off because we need to bleed the system. So just take this off and set it aside. We'll just put it right there. So what's going to happen is we're going to take our coolant and fill the tank with coolant. And what happens is this will completely fill the system, and you want to pour coolant in here until nothing but liquid comes out of that little hole. And another reason we have the car up on ramps is because you want this point right here, the top of the expansion tank, to be the highest point of the cooling system to make sure all the air gets out. So what we're doing is we're going to keep pouring and pouring until we fill the system. Nothing but liquid. So we're going to waste a little bit of coolant as that hole fills up, but once we're sure that nothing but liquid comes out, we're good to screw everything back together, let it warm up, and make sure there's no air in the system, but more importantly, make sure there's no leaks. So as you can see, the system was pretty drained, so I'm going to go ahead and mix another even 50-50 in here and add more. So as you can see right there, as I pour coolant, all that air is coming out, and that's exactly what you want to do. You want to get all that air out, and you keep doing this until you're confident there's no more air coming out. Once you do that, you put the bleed screw back on, and you take you're gonna take a like a turkey beater or whatever you call those, and take out a little bit of coolant from here, because you want to get it down right to the level where, you know, this dipstick is the level's right between the two dots on this dipstick. Right now it's too high, but we're still filling it, so just keep doing that. Alright guys, so now that we got our tank filled to capacity, what we do is we're going to start the car, let it warm up, monitor the temperature, and check for any leaks. Alright guys, so basically what we're doing now is we're just letting the car warm up. It'll probably take about 10 minutes to fully warm up, but we're gonna let it warm up, check for leaks, make sure everything's okay. If we look under here, you see nothing's leaking, so that's good. The only drops you see are coolant that we spilled when we took the water pump out, or when we were adding coolant after we put everything back together. So we don't see any leaks, so that's good. That's exactly what you want to see. So we're just monitoring everything under here, making sure everything's okay, checking the temperature needle inside, making sure that that's dead center, because if it moves to the right slightly towards hot, then that means we got air in the system and we got to rebleed the system. So that's what we're doing now. So after we're done all that, basically what we're going to do is we're going to let the car cool down completely, and we're going to check the coolant levels again and make sure it's exactly where it needs to be. If we did the job right, what we're going to do is when the car is completely cooled down, we're going to open this tank right here, and the coolant level should be exactly where it was before we started the car. So that's how you know that you have no leaks in the system. Alright guys, so that pretty much sums up the water pump replacement on the car. So as you saw, it's pretty straightforward. I got everything put back together. I got the cooling system all bled out. I let it warm up. I let it get to operating temperature. No problems at all. I didn't see any leaks. The needle was dead center. It didn't, you know, move a millimeter slightly to the right, so everything looks okay. I'm going to leave it on these ramps for a couple hours, let it cool down completely. I'll check the level again, make sure everything's okay. Shouldn't be any problems, but once I'm done with that, I'll just get it off the ramps and the car will be good to drive. So basically, on a BMW E46, that's how you change your water pump. So you bleed the system, so pretty straightforward, pretty easy. That's one reason why I like these cars, because they're very easy to work on. You know, it just requires basic mechanical skills, so really not complicated at all. So with that, I really hope you guys enjoyed this video. I will be making more videos very soon. I pretty much have my schedule down to a T right now, so I almost, for the most part, know exactly what I'm doing. So more car reviews will be coming your way very soon, more DIYs, etc. So with that, if you haven't already subscribed, please do subscribe. Thank you very much. Take care.